As we've been reporting since roughly 4 o'clock this afternoon, former President Donald Trump has been indicted in a Manhattan courtroom by a prosecutor there for alleged hush money that was paid to someone that he was having an extramarital affair to hopefully not impact the 2016 presidential election. But Donald Trump is running for president again. So to help us kind of put all this in perspective and what we can see down the line, Dr. David Crockett, he's a professor and chair of political science at Trinity University. David, thank you for joining us on such short notice. Really appreciate it. We talked about the fact that this has never happened before. Has anything even come close to this?
Not really. We've had presidents in legal trouble before, but not someone running for the office. Obviously, impeachment cases and whether that lingers after they leave office. But, in Bill Clinton's case, he settled his issue with Paula Jones. So this is pretty unprecedented territory.
So you talk about the campaign that he is currently running. There's the question of what does this indictment mean for that campaign, but also I think the question of the ability to campaign. Does the indictment have any impact on his ability to continue running for office?
So it doesn't have any legal impact. He can run for office while he's indicted. He can run for office if he's convicted. He can run for office if he's in jail. But running for office in a primary-centered nomination system means showing up at rallies and running campaign commercials and pressing the flesh. And if he's busy in a courtroom, that's going to be much more difficult to do. So that's going to certainly detract from his normal modus operandi, which is large rallies and his charismatic self with his base. That would be more difficult, I think, to carry off.
But could I make the argument that this may help him in some circles?
You can make the argument, and I think there's certainly a strong Trump base that will be further agitated by this, and who knows what he'll say over the course of the next couple of days before he actually has to report for processing. And this is uncertain territory there, but I think there's a certain faction in the Republican Party electorate that's going to vote for him no matter what. And this will simply, it'll feed the narrative that this is a witch hunt and it's driven by partisanship. The real question, though, is are there other elements of the electorate who are looking for something else, who might have Trump fatigue or have always been not really fans of Trump? And will there be alternatives, and will this move people in that direction? And unlike in 2016, where the 16 alternatives kind of split the vote, maybe the alternatives will be a lot smaller this time, a fewer of them, and the anti-Trump base will coalesce behind someone. And that might be the case that Haley and DeSantis and others will have to make, because they're the ones who present the alternative.
There's also the fact that this may not be the only time he's indicted over the next 6 months.
Yeah, there are at least 3 other investigations that I'm aware of involving classified documents in January 6th and meddling in the Georgia election in 2020. And those actually might be much more serious than this one. And if they roll out in sequence, we could have a series of these things over the course of the next few months. And it's one thing to have one indictment on a salacious charge and everyone kind of accepts the kind of person that Trump is. But it might be much more of an esoteric argument about where the money is coming from and how they account for it. But if other indictments come and things that are perceived as more serious, that I think could end up perhaps having a cascading effect and impact him more negatively.
Yeah, but even if, like you said, we see more indictments stack up, he could still very much be a part of this campaign and on the campaign trail. And as we were watching ABC News special report that was, cutting into part of our 5 o'clock broadcast, we were hearing some of those correspondents say the Trump campaign wants this. They're ready for this. They have said, bring this on. So looking at it from all the different ways that it's unprecedented, hearing a campaign say, yeah, we welcome the legal trouble, that in itself sounds unusual.
Yeah, it's unusual, but he has always been an unusual candidate and an unusual president who sort of defies what we think of as conventional wisdom. I would have said in 2016 he wasn't going to win, and I was wrong. So I think it's hard to predict, but I think what happens in the nomination race may be more predictable depending on how he can mobilize his base, depending on how these indictments come out. And he can use these as sort of the normal polarized narrative of they are attacking me because I am for you. The real bigger question, though, is if he, for some reason, despite all this, gets the nomination, I don't think that that's going to help him in the general election when there's going to be a significant population that has either always hated him, they're going to vote for Joe Biden, or people who might have voted for a Republican alternative, but they just can't stomach him again. That Trump base, I think, has a ceiling that might be lower than what he's expecting. And he has always been the one to sort of play to his base, not recognizing that he needs to get more than that to win. And he kind of eked over the finish line in 2016 with that. He was not able to do it in 2020. And I'm not sure how much I see that working in 2024 without a different method of doing business.
For lack of a better word, Professor, are there going to be tea leaves that you're going to be watching now? Like, there have been some candidates out there who haven't formally announced, who seem to be in sort of a holding pattern. One of them mentioned is Texas' own Governor Greg Abbott. People said if he gets in, that may indicate that people think Trump is in trouble. Are those the kind of tea leaves that we should be watching over the next few months?
Yeah, perhaps. So you do have some candidates who will get in or have gotten in who aren't too worried about Trump because they're intending to run contrary to Trump, like Haley and DeSantis. There are other people, I think, who are waiting to see what happens, and they won't get in if Trump's going to stay a strong candidate. But if he looks weak, they would see this as their opportunity. And if those start jumping in, that might be a signal that at least they believe that he's not going to be able to seal the deal. On the other hand, if too many of them get in, you will have a rerun of what happened in 2016 with 17 candidates. And candidates win when they can coalesce the establishment and the money behind them. And if that money and that support is split 10 or 10 different directions, the net Trump base might only be 35%, but that's enough to win a primary, and that's enough to get the nomination.
One thing's for sure, there's plenty to watch in the weeks and the months to come. Dr. David Crockett, thanks so much for being here, Professor and Chair of Political Science of Trinity University. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Thank you for your time. We'll be right back.
Keep up to date with all of San Antonio's top news, weather, and so much more by clicking the like and subscribe buttons below. And once again, thanks for watching KSAT.